r/NoSleep. Posted by u/void_cyper. Nobody in my town answers a knock at the door after midnight. My town was in many regards like any other, town festivals, church gatherings. The only thing that set us apart from any other town was the curfew. Nobody was allowed outside after 12 a.m. At 11:30 the police would sweep the area making sure everyone was inside. We weren't allowed back out until sunrise. We also were advised to never answer a knock at the door no matter how desperate or human the entity on the other side seemed. Nobody in my town disobeyed this rule until tonight. Mr. and Mrs. T were new to the neighborhood, and we did give them the warning about the town curfew. They asked why and we just told them they can't be outside and had a police officer to enforce this rule. That very night they moved and we heard screaming and arguing coming from their house. It was 11:58 a.m. and Mr. T did not acknowledge the warning and ran outside for a cigarette. The police had already done their scan of the town, and nobody would step outside to save him. The clock turned 12 o'clock and the moon became obscured by dark clouds. I looked out the window from my bedroom. I could see a few houses doing the same. That's when the street lights went out. We heard panic and only the light from the neighbors peeping out their windows enlightened the horrific scene. Shadows gathered around Mr. T and we saw what looked like long shadowy arms reach up from the ground and coil around the unfortunate man. "No. No. Let me go!" he shouted in vain trying to get loose, but it was futile. That's when Mrs. T ran out to join him. "Jerry!" she screamed to the man who was already half submerged in the asphalt ground. Going outside to save her husband was the last mistake she would make, for when she did, the arms coiled around her too. "No. Help someone, hell!" She was muffled when one of the hands closed her mouth and dragged her down with her husband who was already dead. That's when we heard it knocking at the door followed by a voice. It sounded like Mr. T but I knew better. "Please sir, let me in, it's very cold out here. Please, they will get me if you don't let me in just for a moment." We knew better than to answer knocks at the door when the shadows gathered. I tried to sleep but couldn't. I have not seen the shadows take people before. It was hard to witness. We thought as long as we followed the curfew and stayed in our houses that we would be safe. We were wrong. It was a week after the incident and the town was due for a lunar eclipse. I figured the light of the moon would be enough to dispel the darkness and save me from the boogeyman at night. I was wrong. That night came and we went about our usual routine, locking the doors, windows and drawing the curtains. While we were drawing the curtains, we noticed a thick fog began to set in. We didn't think much of it. I did panic a little when I looked at the calendar and saw that the date had read Friday the 13th. I was never a big buyer into unlucky 13 but something about it this time made me uneasy. We were off to bed as the clock read 12:01 a.m. That's when a strong wind flew by. Things went from weird to terrifying and dangerous when the wind became so strong it shattered one of the windows. I was in awe and terror as I watched the curtains, which was our last defense against the shadows, lift from the wind current to revel the darkness oozing into our house like a vapor cloud. My dad grabbed me up and my mom grabbed my sister and rushed us to the upstairs bedroom. We could hear screams and panic through the harsh wind. This had never happened before. It couldn't invade your house. Was it stronger somehow? We rushed ourselves into mom and dad's giant closet and locked the door, taking a jacket and stuffing it under the door, trying to close off every entrance to the closet. My sister cried, my dad was shaking with fear, my mom tried to comfort both, and I just stood there shocked. Mom had her phone so we could see the time. It was 12:10. We had a long night ahead of us, so we grabbed some clothes to make a pseudo bed and slept together the best we could. We woke up at some odd hours of the night to knocking on our closet. One voice pretended to be our neighbor asking to take her child, another was my best friend Tony. I covered my ears knowing we were hearing the voices of the deceased. It was 6:12 when my dad looked out the closet to see if it was safe, and it was. The darkness was gone. The sky was a metallic gray and blue. We walked downstairs to see our living space covered in broken glass and blown over ornaments. We walked outside to a hellscape, empty neighborhoods, with the exception of a few people who managed to somehow survive the night. Everyone in that town moved the same day. It's a ghost town now, and no one should ever visit it. The next story of this video. Posted by u/void_cyper. I was on a bus riding into a small town when something attacked us. It was the dead of winter, and I was on a bus going into a small town in West Virginia. I was off to go visit my family for the holiday, and thoroughly enjoyed the serene winter atmosphere. The bus was cold but not freezing, snowflakes fell gently from the sky, and even though we were driving down the highway, you could hear the faint sound of the winter winds coming through. The bus was fairly empty. There was me, the driver, a soldier returning home, a man who somehow got permission to have his fairly large hound on the bus, and another man sitting alone in the corner. I listened to music on my Bluetooth. It was quiet music, so it didn't disturb the passengers around me, and that's when I hear the bus driver. Folks, it looks like we might have to make a bit of a detour due to closed roads. There is a gas station in case anyone needs to stop for something. I guess I could use some chips and soda, I thought to myself. As we turned to the alternative route, we saw the flat fields give way to elevation and trees. We were getting into the mountains now. I almost fell asleep looking out the window, until something caught my eye. In the woods the moonlight seemed to temporarily light up an animal. At first, I thought it was a gray wolf, but its back was too hunched up. I heard the soldier speak up. "Hey, anyone else see something out there?" It would seem as though I wasn't the only one. We continued down the road for about 5 minutes, when we saw something even more disturbing. Bright red eyes, at least 5 pairs, gazed from the forest at the bus. We weren't going very fast due to night and weather, but it was still terrifying that the creatures, whatever they were, could keep up with the bus. The hound then began to bark wildly at the window, and the hound master was trying to calm it down. "Hey, enough of that," I hear him say as the dog settles down. There was something out there now, I am sure of it. "Hey, how much longer till we get to that gas station?" I heard the hooded man in the back say. "Not long, sir, just about." That's when we were interrupted by a loud popping sound, and the bus fishtailed out of control. The driver swerved off the road and slammed right into a tree. The hound was barking madly, and the other passengers got up to see if the driver was okay. He was unconscious. "We need to get off this bus and get help," said the man with hound, but the soldier protested. "I don't think getting off the bus is a good idea," he said as he pointed out the window to glowing red eyes through the blizzard, eyes that slowly seemed to be getting closer. The man who sat in the back pointed out the window on the other side, and he could see the sign for the gas station. "We gotta break for it and call the cops," said the hound man. "We can't just leave the driver here," said the soldier. "He will be dead, wait," said the mysterious man. It was about now that I weighed in. "Guys, we can worry about him later. Those things outside might be more interested in chasing us anyway. Besides, even if he dies, that doesn't mean we have to." It wasn't the most humane response, but survival was all I could think about, and I didn't want to break for the gas station alone. Everyone finally came to the decision to break for the store and call the cops. The things in the woods, however, seemed to be drawing closer to us. We opened the door and poured out. The hound barked and growled, ready to defend his master. The soldier pulled out a combat knife from his boot, and the mysterious man pulled out a gun. "What the hell, man, you brought a gun with you?" the soldier asked. "Yeah, was actually going to use it to rob the bus, but we have more important things." The only thing I had with me were the others and a large stick I happened to find on the ground. "Alright, on the count of 3 we make for the gas station. 1, 2. At the count of 3 we ran as fast as we could in the direction of the gas station. I could hear the things behind us picking up their speed. I turned my head and saw the bandit take aim and fire his pistol at the animal attacking us. He hit it right between its eyes and it plummeted to the ground, but I didn't stop to study its corpse. I kept running until the gas pumps were in my sight, and then it was a short burst into the actual store. I heard the sound of a pistol crackling off twice and a scream coming from the woods. They were better equipped to fight than I was. I rushed into the store and the man behind the desk noticed me immediately. "Let me guess, you saw some monsters in the woods?" What he said interested me. Had this happened before? "Yeah, how did you know?" He picked up the phone, meaning they didn't close the road like it told them to. I heard him give the street name and gas station name to the man on the other side of the phone. "How many of you are there?" he asked just as the man with the dog walked into the gas station with his injured hound next to him. "Is that dog going to be okay?" I asked out of concern. "Yeah, she just got a little scratched up. Lucky I found a crowbar in the woods under the snow." Shortly after, the man with the gun walked in. "Hey, thanks for helping, man," I could hear him say in an aggravated voice. I did feel like a bit of a coward having not done anything to help them, but someone had to make sure the police were notified. The last person to walk in was the soldier, who had a large gash on his chest and was covered in blood. The man behind the desk went to the back room and got first aid kits and cleansing supplies. He clearly had an experience like this before. Outside the gas station I could see the monsters came to a halt before entering the gas station, as though they couldn't bring themselves to take another step. "Don't worry, their eyes hate light, so they won't come near here." Police showed up 10 minutes later. 2 police officers took our statements while 3 other men with rifles and shotguns fired into the woods, chasing down the beasts to exterminate them. I don't think the bus driver ever made it, and I haven't talked with anyone who was on that bus in a while. If my experience taught me anything, it's that when driving up or down the West Virginia forest mountains, always travel during the day.